Two screens, two different views. That's what we're all about. Welcome to Dual Screen Radio, where listening is good.
This is Shane R. Monroe.
And this is Chris Hentschel.
And welcome to another episode of Dual Screen Radio. You're listening to episode number 6. This is our special DS Lite coverage show. If you're looking for reviews, our regular touch and go segment, they'll return on our next episode. This episode is going to be solely dedicated to the Nintendo DS Lite, which I actually have in my possession, and we are going to be telling you everything you want to know about it and then some. We've asked our listeners to ask us questions about the DS Lite, what they would like to know the most, and we have an unbelievable list of questions. We got some good listeners, man.
Yeah, we got some good questions here.
Some good stuff.
Drew a lot of them from the forums, too. I'd like to remind everybody to check the forums every once in a while. Yeah,
that's definitely, yeah.
I mean, for stuff like this, that could come up. I mean, you can be a part of the show in different types of ways, I guess, just by getting involved and asking questions for this show.
That's right. And you wouldn't know it if you hadn't gone to the forums. So
right.
Check the site, check the forums. That's our weekly or our showly plug for making sure that if you're casting the show, don't rely on the cast to tell you everything. Make sure that you get out, check the site, check the forums.
Be a part of the DS Dual Screen Radio community.
Be part of our community.
Which is growing.
Yeah, it's growing. Leaps and bounds, dude. I'm totally stoked. Hopefully this show will let everybody... There's a lot of people. Let me explain, first of all, why we're doing a show on the DS Lite. Now, a few shows back, we talked about the DS Lite and what it was promised to be. There's a lot of information that's going to be repetitive from that. I'm going to assume that whoever's listening to this show may not have heard the first one, or I think it was the second show we did it.
Yeah, something like that.
So we're going to assume that I didn't tell you anything already about the DS Lite. Now, this is all hands-on. I'm not pulling this from magazines or articles. If I am going to give you a fact that I regurgitate from someplace else, I'll tell you, such as the battery life that we're going to talk about, because I haven't had a chance to properly run this guy through the paces. But I will. This is all hands-on. This is actually having a unit right here. So this is a little bit
fresh. I mean, before we were kind of just pulling it from other sources, so now, it's okay to regurgitate because we're actually getting a hands-on perspective here from Shane, and he's going to tell us everything. He's actually holding the thing. So we're not just
right
going
here
by secondhand information. So,
and as a bonus, now, while you're listening to the show, down in our regular links area, if you're casting the show, then you're out of luck. I would recommend going to the website right now and pulling up the current show, dualscreenradio.com, and go to the current show button, because you're going to want to follow along with some of the pictures that I'm talking about as we go on, because we've taken the time to document this guy properly. We've taken pictures. We've got a bonus video to show your favorite games being played on the DS Lite, real videos, that I took myself.
Yeah, it's quite a sight to see.
And they look great. And if you're just casting the show, you are totally missing out on the other half of what's going on with this episode. So that's worth mentioning as well.
And before anybody cries foul to, why don't you have a video iPod podcast? You know what? Sorry, but this video footage is going to look a lot better on your computer anyway.
Yeah, and it's 85 megs for crying out loud. I don't think you guys want a video cast 100 meg show.
Plus, on the fact that the screen, you get the size of the DS screens involved, and they're going to look puny as anything. You're not going to get the real experience of how nice the screen looks.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and I've worked a lot to try to make the screens a trade-off between the compression that I used, I used the Xvid codec, absolutely free, and there'll be links to download that. But I made sure that I took a trade-off of quality versus size, that we got the absolute best quality we could while keeping it under 100 megs. So
yeah, it looks great.
It's a good-looking video. I was very pleased about it. Okay, well, let's move into the show. I'm going to break this down into a few different parts. I'm going to tell you a little story about how I got the DS Lite. A lot of people ask, well, who did you import it from? How did it go? How long did you have to wait? How much did it cost? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Of course, the physical characteristics of the DS Lite are where the real selling points are, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about there. The screen's probably the biggest selling point. We're going to discuss that in its own segment. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about battery life, and then we're going to move into our actual listener questions, of which we have many.
Yeah, so good ones, too, really.
Yeah, well, there's some really cool ones, things I would have never thought to talk about, so that's why that's smart to query the community.
And people just kind of came right away with some really good stuff. I was really shocked. I got up the next day and went right to the forums, and we had quite a few good questions there. I was really surprised.
I tell you, I hang out at GameStop. I'm one of those people. I hang out at GameStop. I have lots of friends that are interested in the DS now that we're playing it at work all the time. And their biggest question is, should I buy now or should I wait? And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get this out here so that people know, hey, maybe I shouldn't buy the original DS because it's not going to meet the needs that maybe the DS Lite will. And the DS Lite's sort of around the corner. So we want to help educate people who may be listening to this that don't have a DS yet, but they're on the fence. Do I buy now and get the original, or do I wait and get the Lite? Hopefully by the time we're done with this review, you're going to have a good idea what your needs are and how you can best spend your cash. Anything else for before we get started, Chris?
No, that sounds pretty good.
All right.
I think we're all caught up now on what we're going to do. I know I know I'm not on the fence with this thing. I'm really psyched about it. If anything, just for the screens and the some of the other things we're going to talk about, such as the controls themselves. But the size-wise and whatnot, that's not even really one of my big buying decisions for it. So the screens are just amazing, as everybody will be able to see in some of the screenshots and the great video you really pulled off there.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I ordered my DS Lite right around the first part of February, if I recall. And I ordered it, was it Like-Sang? Is that how you pronounce that? Is that like a Japanese thing, like or Lick-Sang?
I guess somebody will chime in.
Somebody will chime in and help us out.
I seem to go with Lick-Sang.
Me too. I don't know why. That just seems funnier. It sounds like an old candy, like Leica-made Lick'em sticks. I always think of that when I see Lick-Sang. I'm looking for somewhere to dip my little thing in the Kool-Aid and lick it up. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I got totally sidetracked there. Anyway, so I ordered from them at the price of, I believe, $169 was what they were pre-ordering them for, and I ordered a white, the cool-looking white one.
iPod white.
I'm sorry, iPod white. Again.
Yeah, because we all know you love your iPod. Make sure you match it. You want to look cool as you walk down the street.
I want to look cool. I'm going to have white earphones in my ears with them not plugged into nothing. No, anyway, so I went ahead and placed my pre-order, and this was at a time when, really nobody knew when these things were going to ship, when they were going to be available. It was all kind of it was just a kind of guesswork, So I went ahead and placed the order, and then it got released in Japan, and of course they were all bought. I mean, stores had them sold out before they even opened the store, which doesn't seem quite right to me, but whatever. So the unit was super hot, and apparently Lick-Sang or Like-Sang could not get enough of these to start filling pre-orders. And there were people that had pre-ordered long before me. And so we started getting emails, saying, yes, it's going to be a long time. Don't worry about it. We're going to fill orders as quick as possible. I will give them this. They did keep in pretty decent communication with us. But what they were unable to do, which really pisses me off, they were unable to say, you're so-and-so in the queue. I would like to have known if there were 500 people in front of me or 15 people in front of me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, every time I tried to query them, how far back am I? How far back in the queue am I? I mean, come on, it's a SQL report here. I mean, literally, give me access to your database. I could write a query and pull back that information. But
You're
they
paying
simply
a lot of money for this thing, too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to just give me some kind of clue when I expect the thing. Yeah. You have my money.
Throw us a bone.
Yeah.
And, of course, it's like, we don't have that information. It's like, yeah, you do. Just give us the information. But anyway, then, of course, the price gouging started. A lot of the pre-order people, and I'm not exactly sure where they come up with this, but everybody started tacking on money to the pre-order price. There was one place I think that wanted $300. It's like, okay, well, you pre-ordered for $169. Now you need to send us, another $130. And that wasn't going to fly. So I was sitting there waiting with bated breath to see whether or not Lick-Sang was going to follow suit and make us pay more. Well, it did come, and they're like, yeah, due to the demand and importing, blah, 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 standard crap. We need to charge you another $30. And I'm like, okay, well, $199. I've waited this long. I'm still in the queue. All right, fine. Take my $30. So I gave them the $30. It was $24.95 for 3-day DHL delivery. So the grand total paid was $222.90. Now, the word on the street was that the DS Lite was going to street here in the United States for $159. And we've got some more information on that we'll talk about later. So I was thinking to myself, with sales tax and all that other stuff, I'm only paying an extra $50, and I'll have the unit early, and I'll be able to review it for the show. I thought that was worth it. So I went ahead and paid the money. And then finally, I got to the point to where I was not getting enough emails back from them, and they weren't talking a lot about it. And I wrote the guy and said, listen, if I change my order to a different color, because they released the whites first, and then 2 weeks later they released the colors. So I thought maybe there'll be more stock of the colors versus the
and
white.
even to this point, from what I understand, the white is still the most popular color.
Yeah.
A lot of these sites you go to, and you can still really only get the other two colors right now. Obviously everybody wants the white one.
Which is crazy. So I wrote to him and I said, listen, if I chose a different color, would I have a better chance of getting it sooner? Because a lot of people are holding out for the white. I'd like to get the dark blue. The dark blue and the one that looks almost black.
That's the color I'm waiting on.
And so they wrote me back, and somehow in the email, I read it wrong or something. And I did go back and finally re-verify my email. It said, yes, if you change to the ice blue, we can send your order faster, or something like that. And people are funny. We see what we want to see. We hear what we want to hear. And when I saw blue in their email, it's like, yeah, sign me up. So I did, in fact, unlike what I posted on the news page, I did, in fact, authorize them to send me an ice blue. However, I'm over that now. I've come clean, and I'm comfortable with my sexuality enough to carry around a light blue DS Lite. And one of our questions is actually how other people are taking it, how other people are giving me crap about the DS Lite, and we're going to talk about that. So anyway, the thing arrived at the worst possible time. I've been building on my house. My folks were down. We were doing this bonsai 14-hour-a-day work for a week on my house to do an addition.
Crazy month, dude.
It was a horrible month. It was a horrible month.
And then you get this thing in the mail.
And then I get this in the mail, and I can't play with it. It's like, this sucks. I told my dad, I said, you know what? I'm going to have a break. I've been waiting like 3 months for this thing. I'm going to have to open it up. Now, what's really funny is at this point in time, I'm still expecting a dark blue or the enamel blue DS. And I'll tell you what, have you ever seen a kid at Christmas time opening a gift that he thinks is like this really cool toy, and it's a box of socks or underwear? That was me. I opened up the box, and I'm like, they sent me the wrong ones, those bastards, right? So I'm like fuming, and then it's like, well, crap, it's still a DS Lite. What am I bitching about? So I finally cracked it open and put it together. And, well, there's no assembly required, but, you got to pull it out of the box and put the little strap on it.
You got to put your little strap on, yeah. I mean,
all that good stuff. So anyway, I wanted to turn it on. I threw Tetris in first thing to see how cool the screens were. I started drooling, and then just as the slobber was starting to drip to the floor, my dad calls me back. Just so you guys know, I'm like 36. When I say my dad called me, it's not like my mom's calling me for dinner. I just realized how that sounded. But my dad, come for dinner. Would you come out and hold this board for me? No. In reality, he took time off of work to come down and help me build on my house, and I felt guilty doing anything. If he was in there building on this room, I was in there. I felt it would be really crappy of me to have my dad come down on his dime. I paid for his air flight and all that, but to have him come down and then, the second he's in working, I bail off and play DS. It just didn't sound right. So anyway, I really didn't get a chance to play with it until a few days later, and I'll tell you, I'm totally stoked. That's sort of the backstory about how I got the thing. A lot of people seem to be interested in how the import process worked and how long it took and how much it cost. Well, that kind of clears up that piece of the story. Now, the first thing people want to know is, they've seen pictures, but we know pictures kind of lie. Even when you see pictures of the units sitting side by side, there's something about the tactile approach to holding this thing and touching it and stroking the screen and everything else that – oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? There's something about actually having the thing in your hands that makes it completely different than reading about it or looking at pictures. So the physical characteristics, just to give you an overview, we've sort of talked about these, and they're all as reported, but I'll give you my little feedback as we go. One thing I didn't realize is that this unit actually has a plastic shell. There's actually the DS is sort of inside of it, and the top and the bottom of the unit have a hard plastic shell on it. And I'm assuming it has something to do with resisting scratches, resisting dirt, and that sort of thing. Apparently, somebody at GameStop, I took it into GameStop to show it to those guys. Their Nintendo reps don't even have one yet. So they're like, ooh, DS Lite, ooh. The rep said that it's a lot like the shell that's on the Sony PlayStation Portable. I can't attest to that. But that's what the guy told me. He says, yeah, they looks like they took the shell from the PSP and put it on here. So that's cool. I haven't seen any. Go ahead.
My concern with that is it almost from the shots that I've seen, it almost looks like it's just screaming to be scratched too.
Well, I'm looking at it, and I've thrown the thing around a little bit, and the shell doesn't feel like it would be scratch healthy. It's very durable.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like cheap plastic. It feels like a durable shell that's actually designed. I would see it cracking if you dropped it. I could see it cracking before it would scratch.
It's probably just not. It's probably nothing as well. We'll get to the questions, I guess.
We'll get to the questions.
I don't want to. Some of these are actually questions that our readers sent in, so I don't want to jump the gun here. I've actually just scanned through some of these questions. I realize that I'm answering them already, and they're questions that I have myself. So
this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Some of the different characteristics of the DS Lite, some things that have moved around, changed locations. The microphone is no longer at the bottom. When you open the unit up, the microphone is directly below the top screen, right in the middle. It makes a lot more sense there. It looks aesthetically, it doesn't look, any different. It's just a little slit, just like the other mic was. The lights are now on the hinge, on the right-hand hinge. You've seen pictures, I'm sure. The lights are actually cool because you can actually see them now with the unit shut. Before with the DS, the original DS, if you had the unit shut, you could kind of see the lights, but it's like it was an afterthought. It's like no one really thought, hey, they might want to see the lights when this thing's closed. In this case, it's now on the right-hand hinge. If it's closed, the lights are 100% visible. So that's
nice.
Cool.
I like that.
The start and select buttons are now relocated down below the 4 buttons on the right, and they use these, I call them nubs. They're these little nub buttons. And I'll be honest with you, of everything that was done to this unit physically, that's one of the few things I do not care for. The nubs feel...
Rubbery?
No, they don't feel rubbery enough. They feel very rigid. They feel very hard and stiff.
So that was going to be my next question. Like, I was always wondering, they almost look like these 2 little rubber buttons, almost like something from a remote control for the TV that, if you don't push them dead on center, they kind of don't connect. You know what I mean? Like, you're on the edge of the button.
Right.
That doesn't actually depress.
No, I mean, it's a positive affirmation of the click, but it's like every time, there's some games that if I had to go back to the select button a lot, think of like a Resident Evil game where you had to keep hitting a select to bring a screen up or something like that. It would annoy me because the button is very rigid, very hard, and it almost feels like if you use it enough, it'll wear out.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the one piece of the construction I'm not real happy with. But fortunately, for the most part, you don't spend a lot of time on the start and select, and maybe that was what they were going for.
Yeah, this is usually the start button, and that's only the pause. You don't really get a lot of select button play these days.
Yeah, which is good. Good. So that was one of my small physical, bitches about the unit. The power button is now located on the right-hand side, and it's a slider momentary switch. I've never been a big fan of slider momentary switches. I can't give you a good reason why. They feel like eventually they'll wear out. I like the momentary button like the original DS had. I imagine that it's perfectly durable. I'm sure Nintendo wouldn't put something that would be destined to fail on their unit. But along with the start select, this is probably one of my least favorite aspects of the Lite. Fortunately, again, the only time you really have to use it is when you power it on and off.
Now, hey, speaking of that, let me ask a question. I know this isn't one of our questions here, so I just thought about this. I don't know if you've ever noticed on the old DS, when you turn that thing on, you always get that little speaker pop.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that.
I have noticed that.
I was wondering if the DS Lite still contains that, since it's got a different type of switch and just an overall different kind of technology going on here.
Well, let's find out. I've got it sitting right here. Let's see if I hear a pop. There's a little pop. It's still there.
Okay,
I think it has to do with the. I don't think it has anything to do with the power switch. I have a feeling it has more to do with the power on sequence or some sort.
You mentioned it, and I'm just thinking about that because it's not a big deal, but the pop is there, and I was always curious as to this is a little interesting.
Just a weird note. My original silver DS, the original DS that I purchased, doesn't have that pop. But all of my other DSs after that one, my red, the teal, my wife's electric blue, all of them have the pop after that.
Interesting.
Which is really weird. That's one of the reasons I thought my red one was messed up, is because that was the first time I'd ever heard the damn thing pop.
Yeah, because mine's is silver and it does it, so.
Yeah, you might have one of the later ones. I don't know.
Yeah,
so the volume button is also very, very strange. And this is something, again, I don't think I'm going to be able to really complain too much about it because how often you visit the volume control. It's a slider,
All
just like
the
the original one. This is weird. It's like there's a slider inside the unit, and they put a loose-fitting slider case over the top of it. Literally, you could take it. I'm putting it in my hand right now. You can tap the volume, and there's a little bit of play in there. There's a little tiny bit of play. It's almost impossible to explain. But it's like the switch that you touch, the actual slider that you touch, is maybe an eighth of an inch or a 16th of an inch off the switch. So it feels there's a little play in it. I mean, it doesn't affect the volume controller at all, but it's like, why would they do that? That's kind of weird. And I'm wondering if it's one of those things that was done to prevent like impact damage. If the unit was dropped and it hit the button or hit the slider, if that play in there would keep it from actually, harming the switch. I don't know. I have no idea what their thought process was. But every time I put my finger down there and change it and I feel that play, I think it's broken, even though it's not.
Does it feel a little more accurate? Because I know the original DS, I thought the volume was fairly kind of bad. I mean, you
Feels
turn
the
it.
same. Feels the same.
It's about the same because
Yeah, it's about the same.
you turn it all the way up and you're all the way up, but then as you start to turn it down, it goes just a little lower, and then all of a sudden it's completely off.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
If you
proper
slide it
drop.
real slow, it just kind of comes blaring on. It doesn't kind of just blend in as much.
Yeah, there's no improvement in that respect, unfortunately.
Yeah. The only reason I know this is because at night, like if I'm in bed or something playing, and the wife's laying next to me sleeping, there's a certain degree where I try to keep it not too loud, but loud enough that I can hear the game, and
Right,
it's
lucky
really
you.
hard to get to that point,
Yeah, exactly. So that takes care of the volume control, and which is in the same position as it was before. The headphone jack is still there in the front right, where it was before, pretty much.
Good.
The stylus now is no longer in the back, which I always thought was a real pain in the butt to get the stylus from back there. It's now on the side. And this is really, really strange because I have a feeling, and again, I'm talking out of my butt here. I don't have any proof. It almost feels like they specifically moved the stylus to make it more brain age friendly. Because when you power up brain age, the screens are already shifted, so you have to turn the DS immediately when you power up brain age.
That's a good point.
When you turn the DS to open it like a book for brain age, the stylus is now on the top, where you would have normally gotten the stylus from the original DS. I thought that was an interesting piece.
Yeah, that's really a nice little thing you noticed there.
But it's on the side. It's on the side. It's easier to get out now. It's definitely bigger. It's about 3/4 of an inch longer. I would say 40% thicker. And it seats in the slot fine. There's no problems there. And I'll tell you what, the difference between this stylus in terms of comfort and the original stylus is volumes. When you look at pictures, and I'm going to have a picture of both styluses there for you to see, for you to see. You'll see that there's a significant difference in size, but it's one that you look at and go, well, it can't be that much more comfortable, but it is. There's less of a gap that you have to worry about. It sits comfortably against my finger knuckle now, whereas the other one kind of fell below.
Would you say it's a little more closer to like what the Battle stylus is giving us?
I'm holding the Battle stylus right now, and it's definitely a little heavier, but I'm waiting to see what the new Battle stylus for the Lite will be like before I actually comment on that. But yeah, this is something that if you accidentally didn't have your Battle stylus with you, you'd be able to play with it and not complain. So it's definitely a step up. What do we got next here? The buttons. Oh, yeah. Okay. This is the thing that you really have to talk about. The original buttons on the original DS have a very firm clicky to them. They feel like I'm trying to think of exactly what sort of button you'd compare them to.
Very tactile.
It's very on off, very on off. It feels like
Clicky.
It doesn't feel like a video game button. Let's put it that way. The D-pad and the buttons on the original DS don't really feel like video game buttons. You get used to them, but all the time you're kind of thinking they probably could have done this better. Now,
I like my D-pad buttons kind of mushy myself.
Yeah, and the DS Lite brings mush back to the control. And it's not mush that makes you inaccurate. It's mush that makes it more comfortable. Your thumb doesn't get tired as much.
Especially hitting those diagonals, you know, left. Like say you want to go diagonally, that's a left and a bottom click.
Right.
You know, so if it's easier just to kind of flow between the two rather than click, click, click. You know.
That's right. This rolls. This rolls
Nice.
where the
See, I
other
like
things
that.
click. And I'll tell you what, I mentioned before that I thought that the buttons on the DS Lite looked like they were going to be part of the Revolution controller. They looked like they were taken right from it. Now, that makes sense because these buttons feel like remote control buttons. If you were to pick up right now, I picked up my Firefly remote for my white box, and if I push on these buttons, my up, down, left, right buttons, they feel like the DS buttons, the new DS Lite buttons. They feel like a solid remote control button set. And it's very comfortable. This is a great precursor to understanding how comfortable the Revolution buttons are going to be. And I think that's important.
From what I understand, the Game Boy Advance Micro kind of has that similar control scheme. I mean,
really?
in terms
I'm going to have to
of the construction of them.
Huh. I'll have to go down to GameStop and let me hold one. I got one by accident from Nintendo, but I boxed it up and sent it back before I had time to evaluate it. But I'll go down to GameStop and I'll post a little, after show post to see if they're the same.
Even if you look at the screenshots, like how each of the D-pad, buttons have those little lines kind of painted in there.
Right.
It's the same with the Game Boy Advance Micro, and actually similar, as you've already said, to the Revolution controller. It's got that same kind of mushy-looking feeling D-pad. It's not that clicky one that we have now on the DS.
Yeah, it's very comfortable, and like I said, it really saves your thumbs. In fact,
very NES-like.
I'm not sure. I mean, this is probably a bunch of crap, but I seem to be able to play Tetris better with it. I haven't been able to beat the computer on a Versus CPU in standard mode on level 3. As soon as I put Tetris in this DS Lite, I was able to beat him the first time in on level 3. Does that mean anything? I don't know. Just observations, folks. That's what I'm here to give you.
DS Lite excitement probably overloading.
Probably so.
Tetris,
it made me a better Tetris player. Whatever. The cartridge slot for the Game Boy Advance is in the same location, but as many people already know, the cartridges protrude now. The regular standard Game Boy Advance cartridge, I measured it out, protrudes about a half an inch. Not too bad. Now, if you put in, say, Wario Twisted, it's considerably, because that already stuck out too far as it was before, and now this just, this makes it
probably
look
like a full inch thing.
Yeah, it's like a Borg bolt-on at the bottom of this thing. So, yeah, if you're still playing a lot of GBA stuff, it's not uncomfortable, but you should be aware it sticks out a half an inch. And the same with the Rumble Pack. And I got some questions about the Rumble Pack to answer, too, in our listener questions, so I'm going to save more of that discussion for then.
I guess it's more considerable to how the original Game Boy cartridges kind of stuck out of the Game Boy Advance.
Yep.
It was about a half an inch or so.
Yeah, it's about a half an inch. And I guess they figured if you tolerated it the first time around, you're more than happy to tolerate it this time around. And they're probably right. The weight of the unit, and this is one of the listener questions, but I'm going to go ahead and cover it here as well. The weight of the DS, and I actually have a postage scale right here. This is my own weighing. I didn't pull this from anywhere else. The DS, the original red DS with a cartridge in it and the strap on, is 9.8. This is a family show, Chris. Stop laughing. 9.8 ounces is what the original DS clocks in at. The DS Lite clocks in at 7.7 ounces. So a 2-ounce variance. Is that something you're going to notice like right away when you pick it up? You can tell, but it's not like going, man, this is so light. No, it's not like that. It's like, hey, okay, they shaved some ounces off here. This is cool. So not noticeably, or it's noticeably, but not significantly lighter. In terms of size, the unit clocks in, again, my own measurements, at 5 1/4 inches long, 3 inches wide, and 1 inch tall. So they claim it's like 40% smaller. And I would say that's probably a relatively close number. Now, one of the things that they did with the DS, the original DS, which I've got my red right here, is they cut the corners in a manner, they didn't literally cut corners, not figuratively. If you were to actually take your DS and hold it like in front of you and look straight into the GBA port, you can see on the sides of the unit they're rounded, they're tapered. And so when you look at the top or you look at the side, you don't realize how much more space there is on this thing. They managed to cut it so that it's, even though it's bigger, it's still fairly aesthetically pleasing. The DS Lite is very square. It's more like a standard rectangle. There's no tapering off. And I'll tell you, the difference is really, really noticeable. When you play the DS Lite for about an hour and then pick up your original DS, you're going to go, whoa, this feels funky. And a lot of people were worried that the smaller size was going to have the same impact that the GBA SP had in terms of being so small that your hands cramped. The problem with the Game Boy Advance SP versus the original Game Boy Advance had to do with the way the buttons were placed and their distance from the edges and things like that. Nintendo made sure that the buttons and everything were very comfortable on the DS Lite. The difference in width will not cramp your hand. I've logged many hours playing it, and it feels the effect on your hands. The buttons take a huge load off. Maybe that's the difference, because the buttons take such a load off that your hands don't cramp. What can I tell you? So that's really cool in terms of the size not affecting the ability to use it. The hinge, one of the problems that I had when I bought my DS, my original DS Red, aside from the dead pixel that I sent back, and then they sent me back a refurbished DS, the hinge was loose. And so now I've got this weird I'm like obsessive about the hinge on my DSs being tight. Because when you're playing Mario and you're shaking it, and the top screen like wiggles a little bit, it drives me crazy. Most people I don't get it. Why does that bother you?
Do you still have that click in your original DS?
Oh yeah, I've still got my original click. When you open it up,
yeah. Some of them
clicks.
I've noticed some of them. I mean, I don't even think some of them even come with a click. I know my wife's doesn't click.
Really?
You know, and
That's
it never clicked when we first opened it. So I guess I don't know what that's about, but I do like the click. It kind of
keeps it tight.
Yeah, it makes it feel right that you have it open at that right angle. It kind of gives you a little clue, an audio
visual clue.
Oral clue that you have it open right. So.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the clicks that let you know that you're in the right spot. And the DS Lite has the exact same thing. You can open it to its proper viewing perspective, and you can also do a second click open, which puts it in that full flat mode. And I didn't even know you could do that until like 20 minutes ago when I was dinking with it, because I never play in that full flat mode. I like the angle. And the angle definitely appears to be more concise. Maybe they did some more ergonomic testing or whatever on it. But a lot of people said, well, if you have it open, both screens aren't bright. There's one screen that's bright and there's one screen that's a little dim. Remember all the arguments about that? Yeah. That's all gone. I mean, obviously the DS screens are so much brighter you wouldn't even notice anyway, but the way that they've changed the angle on the unit allows you to be able to better see both screens at the same time without going to full flat, which is great. And the hinge itself looks like it was redesigned and reconstructed. I don't like the hinge. Every time I open my DSs, I think about the hinge. The Lite, the hinge is very different, and I don't have the same worries about that now, which is was really important to me. A lot of people say, hey, it looks really cheap. The shiny, the plastic look, they're like, is this thing really durable? This is one of the things I get asked a lot. It's also one of our listener questions. But I do want to discuss it here in case people bail out later on when I'm answering questions. The unit feels solid. If you've ever picked up a Game Boy Micro, I did hold a Micro. I didn't play with it much, but I held it. Because I always thought the Game Boy Micro looked cheap. I thought to myself, man, that looks cheap. It looks like it'd break if you dropped it.
Well, it doesn't help that the little front panel of it actually snaps on and off.
Yeah,
so you could
right.
put a custom cover on. I think that was a little stupid, personally.
Yeah, they were going for the iPod audience,
that.
and that's exactly what they wanted. So whatever.
It should have just been a solid metal product. I think they could have done that because the back of it isn't the back of it kind of a metalish feel? It's like
it felt more like metal.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool if the whole thing was built like that.
But this unit feels very solid. When you pick one up, you're not going to go, man, this is cheap, flimsy plastic. You're going to go, oh, it feels packed.
Quality.
It feels like good quality. And I wouldn't have expected anything less. But I did have my reservations because it does have that breakable look because it's shiny and plasticky looking, you know. So I understand why people were worried about that. But not to worry. I haven't dropped it yet. But we'll see what happens when the first time I do drop it. We'll see how well it holds together. I've dropped my original DS like 2 or 3 times. My wife has dropped hers more times than I care to even mention. Oh. And the things keep going. What do you want? Okay, let's move off the physical characteristics. Let's talk about the screens. This is the big selling point. Most people are like, I don't care about the size. The Game Boy, the original DS was fine in terms of size. It was a little bulky, but I can live with it. Tell me about the screens. And the screens are where this thing really shines. Now, I've got some links, again, to pictures, so you may want to follow along, look at the pictures, and so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The screens are the same size. In fact, my original DS screen protectors fit just fine on the screen. In fact, they fit a little bit better. I don't know why that was, but a lot of times I have to reposition my screen protector. I have to dink with it to get it on. This kind of just rolled right on, probably because I've just gained experience on putting them on.
You know what? Before we move on, I don't know if you want to talk about we had some questions actually recently in the forum about the screen protectors. And,
yeah.
What kind exactly did you put on there again? The Pelicans?
This is the Pelican one that comes with 2 or 3 styluses. It's for $4.99. It comes with a top and a bottom screen protector. I don't use the top one because they're on crack cocaine the way that they put the top one together. And you don't really need a screen protector.
Right?
What's that?
It's got some kind of adhesive on it, right?
Yeah. What happens is the bottom screen protector is like a sheet of plastic you lay down on the screen. For some reason, the top protector, they chose to make it like over the screen. So it's like it actually extends around the borders of your actual screen. And you're supposed to stick the whole thing to the top screen as well. And I'll tell you what, my first DS, I did try to put the top screen protector on, which is dumb because the unit closes.
Yeah, it's not really necessary.
It's not necessary. You need it to protect against your stylus at best.
The only time you got to protect that is if somebody's new to the DS and they want to tap on the top screen thinking it's a touch screen as well.
That's about it. And, dude, we all did it.
Yeah.
But, so you don't really need the top protector. And so I use the bottom protector. These are the ones that are readily available at GameStop because that's where I pretty much shop all the time. They come, hanging on the wall. Like I said, there's 2 or 3 styluses or styli. And inside comes 2 sheets, one that's the lower screen protector, one that's the top. It comes with a little dust cloth, and it comes with this little hard plastic card to level out the bubbles in it.
Now, does that actually cling to the like through like a static cling kind of thing? I guess
No, it's sticky. It feels like an adhesive of some sort.
Yeah, that's one thing I wasn't too keen on with the Pelicans. I myself have the Hori ones, which I guess that's how I'm saying it, right?
Yeah, Hori.
I should check out my Japanese pronunciation.
Yeah, you got to get Opera to tell you how to say it.
But I can get these from EB Games. Actually, the EB Games seems to be the only place I have seen these. The Pelican ones I've seen at Best Buy, GameStop, even at Target. But the Hori ones, I'm only seeing them at EB Games lately. And same idea. You get a little top screen, you get a little bottom one, and you also get the little cleaning cloth. But these actually, you peel them off, and they just kind of, as soon as you come in contact with the touch screen or the top screen, it's almost like they're attracted to it. They'll actually lean out and grasp it. It's really wild how you can lay them on. They've kind of got a little charge going on, I think, through static. But they're like a little silicone. There's no adhesive whatsoever on these things. So you can pull them on and off, no residue.
Yeah, these don't give residue. I've actually pulled these off before when I sent back one of my DSs, and there was no residue on the bottom screen when I pulled it off.
Yeah.
So whatever residue they use on the bottom isn't the same crappy, sticky to the screen crap they use for the top one. I
highly recommend them. Yeah. I can't believe how many scratches I have on my screen protector, and I've had it on since maybe August. So.
Yeah, and the screen protectors do actually show scratches more than the actual screens do. One of the questions I did get, and I'm going to bring it up since we're already talking about it, was there's been some word out that the touch screens are more durable on the lights than they were on the other ones. And I'll be honest with you, I don't touch my touch screens when I open the box until there's a screen protector on it. I will not touch or even feel my screens without having a screen protector on. That's how fanatical I am about it. So to be honest with you, did it look a little more durable? It kind of did. Did I get to do any real world tests? No. Like I said, before I even touched the thing, it got a screen protector. It's just the way it goes.
Play it safe, people.
Play it safe. Wrap your rascal. No, in my opinion, that's like resale value. That's like not smoking in your car.
Yeah. That's a really good comparison.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, if you want to keep the value of your DS, you're not going to want to take it back to GameStop with it full of scratches or sell it to your friend when it's full of scratches. You're going to want to put the screen protector on. No reason not to. It's $5. If you can't afford $5, then you probably shouldn't have a DS anyway. So
we're at the so we have. Tell us about the brightness factor now.
Yeah, let's talk about the brightness because this is way cool. There's 4 levels of brightness, and the thing powers up by default to the second brightest setting. If that makes sense. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and when you power it up, it goes to 3 by default, which is fine. It is tons brighter than the original DS, and there's going to be pictures up on where we're posting our pictures and our screenshots. The second level of brightness, I would say, is roughly, I want to say about 3 times brighter than the DS. Right out of the box, when you first power it up, you're going, damn. I mean, literally, you will say damn. Even if you don't usually use the word damn, when you turn on the DS Lite, you'll go, damn. That's bright.
You will say wow.
Yeah, you will believe when you turn it on and you see it. It's amazing. It's to do comparatively speaking, the first time you took a Game Boy, you saw the new Game Boy SP Brights, the new ones, when you saw those compared together and you looked at the old SP and you looked at the new one, it's exactly the same feeling. You're going, man, this is great. But the cool thing is you can change the brightness based on your conditions. If you're in a dark room, which I tend to be in, and you crank this thing up to 4 levels of brightness, the light starts to wash out the color. It just happens. That's just the way it is. If you get it too bright in a dark area, it starts to wash things out. Conversely, if you're out in the bright sunlight, which I did get a chance to do, by the way, and you have it on the second lowest setting or the lowest setting, you ain't seeing anything. It's just like going out with your original DS, going out and playing in the park, you can't see anything. There's no park time Mario Kart throwdowns on the original DS. However, you crank the brightness all the way up on the DS Lite, you can play outside. Somebody asked something about direct sunlight. I mean, I didn't set up mirrors and all that other crap. But I went outside, I sat on the hood of my car, and I fired it up and I played Tetris outside. And on the brightest setting, I could play it comfortably. So
Nice.
There you go. We can now play the DS outside.
Fantastic.
Now, not only are the screens brighter, but the color, it is amazing the difference in the richness of colors. And I know that has nothing to do with the brightness. So the screens are actually higher quality. The resolution, while exactly the same, I do not profess to be an LCD guru, but like the contrast ratio or the pixel lag time or whatever it is that makes one LCD better than another.
Like a refresh rate, maybe?
Yeah, it's not like a refresh rate. I've been scoping like plasma and LCD widescreen TVs, so I've kind of started to learn a little bit about how contrast ratio and pixel lag times and things like that work. This thing's got it going on. I mean, if you look at the screens and you look at Metroid Pinball looks like the tables look real. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. They look so clean. They look fake. That's the best way to put it. Have you ever looked at an ad in like Kmart ad or Walmart ad, and you see a TV in there, and the screen looks absolutely gorgeous on it, and then you look down at the bottom, it says simulated picture?
Yeah, right.
Because it looks so good, it's fake. That's what the DS Lite looks like. If you look at the screenshots, it looks like they're doctored. It looks like they're Photoshopped, but they're not.
Yeah, they look. That's one of the things. Every time I see them, it almost looks like somebody went down to Kinko's, got some really awesome screenshots, printed them out in the highest quality laser jet printer paper, and then shoved them on the screen of a DS. That's what these look like.
But it's real.
It's unbelievable. And even from your video, I don't want to give too much away, but one of the first games in the video itself is you playing Metroid Pinball. And right off the bat, it's just wow. I mean, the colors, especially on something like Medios or Princess Peach, are just so much deeper, especially the reds.
The reds are amazing.
Yeah.
Any of the darker colors, the reds, the browns, the deep blues, it's incredible. And it's something that you really have to see in person. You can look at the screenshots, you can look at the video, and the video probably represents it the best, because then you know it can't be doctored. Your mind starts to believe it when you actually see it being played, where when you look at the screenshot, you're going Photoshop,
Just in motion. It looks
it's
fantastic.
in motion. It's brilliant. I mean, there's anyway.
I gotta say, it's caught up to the PSP screen easily.
I would think so. I would think so, and I'm not the only one that thinks so. I've passed it around to some PSP lovers, and they're like, "Well, finally, the screens look as good as ours," and that's what they basically said. So you take that with a grain of salt. So that's kind of the screens. They're very rich. They're very vibrant. It's night and day, really. Literally, it's night and day. If you tend to play on in daylight, in public places, that sort of thing, that should be your main factor in deciding which DS you're going to use. If you're a shut-in and you like to play in your mom's basement a lot or whatever, you don't see a lot of sunlight because you're half vampire, then the original DS is plenty bright. But if you're going to spend a lot of time outside, be thinking about that when you're deciding which DS to buy.
Now, real quick, can I ask you,
sure.
what is the equivalent brightness to the original DS in terms of the 1 to 4 settings? What would you say most is comparable to the original DS?
Actually, I meant to do that before I started the show, and I didn't get around to it. But how about I do that right now while we're talking about it, because I have the ability.
From what I understand, I heard it was probably around 2.
Let me take a look here.
Let's get a hands-on.
I can hands-on this guy.
Yes, we're going to give the exclusive.
Let me see here. Nope, 2 is brighter. So number 1, the first brightness setting.
Nice.
The original DS is in between level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is darker than the original DS, but just by a little bit, and level 2 is just a little bit brighter than the original DS. So you basically have 3 levels of brightness that are brighter than your original DS. So there you have it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's weird. It feels antiquated now. I got my red DS in my hand, and while I love my red DS, it's like I put it in my hand, and it's like it's dark, it's heavier. It feels old, which is really funny because it's like cutting edge technology and whatnot, but it feels old now that I've had the light in my hands. It's weird. It's funny.
I guess it's like trading in a Datsun for like a
something better.
A Buick to a Datsun or something.
It's wild, man. I'll tell you, it's wow. Let's talk about the battery life. Let's talk about the power subsystem. I know a lot of people are asking. One of the most asked questions are, realistically, what are we talking about for battery life? We all know what the hype is. Nobody believes anything that they're told about battery life because they're smart. They don't believe it because when they gauge battery life for anything, especially like the PlayStation Portable, good example, they take the most optimum condition possible. They turn the screen all the way down to the darkest setting. They don't play anything Wi-Fi. They run everything off a memory card, and then they tell you how long the batteries last. Well, it lasts for 5 hours. Well, until you start spinning the UMD up and you turn the screen up so you can see it, you don't really get an accurate reading on the batteries. So
every activity is going to bring it down. So
exactly.
They're not putting this thing through any type of activity. They're just leaving the thing on.
So
totally ridiculous.
What people want to see are real-world examples of how long the battery lasts and how long the battery takes to charge. So last night, just to give you an example, when I first got my light, I plugged it in and charged it. After I played with it for a few minutes, and I plugged it in and charged it to full capacity. From that point on until last night, I have not yet charged it. And last night, about, maybe 6:30 or so, I turned it on. I put in Tetris and turned it on. Went into Wi-Fi seek mode on the Wi-Fi network so that the Wi-Fi was being turned on. It was actively seeking. I put it on the brightest setting of light, and I let it sit there. Now, by the time I went to bed at 11, it had not yet turned red. The power light. It was still going. So at the very least, with full brightness, full Wi-Fi use, you're talking at least about 4.5 hours. That's at least. I had to leave it on when I went to bed because it wasn't dead yet. And it wasn't even red. So now, I'm going to give you real-world numbers here eventually. They're not going to be for this show. And I'm actually charging the unit right now after dropping it down. I plugged it in at 6:07. It's now 8:48 my time. So we're going to see if it really does clock in around the 3-hour level in terms of recharging. But we're going to give you the real numbers. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Attend the forums. Watch the website. Because when we get these numbers, that's where we're going to post them.
Yeah, the information is going to be a lot more updated than
absolutely. You don't
we'll
have to wait
get
for
out
the
with
show.
this. Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to run this as quickly as we can, but at the same time, forums are going to have the most up-to-date information, followed by the website, followed by the show. Now, one of the things that most people know already, but it's worth mentioning, the power system is completely different. Those of you who are loving the fact that you could use your old Game Boy Advance power supply and you could use all those cool Pelican DS change-out batteries like we talked about on another show, that all goes away. The new power supply is the same size on the wall end. In other words, it's still a small rectangular brick, just like the original one was. But the plug at the end looks more like a FireWire plug. In fact, that's what I thought it was at first. Why is there a FireWire cable in here? But it looks like a FireWire plug, and that's what plugs into the DS. So all of the batteries you may have purchased, all of the power stuff that you've got laying around the house. My house is wired for DS. What can I tell you? My wife's got a power plug next to her chair. My kid, where she sits on the couch, has a power plug next to it. I've got 2 of them over here, one that charges my battery and one that I can plug in and play, and there's one in the bedroom. Unfortunately, with the DS Lite, that all goes away. I can't use any of them anymore. So that is definitely a downstroke. But on the other hand, the reputed, and again, I promise you I'd tell you when I was quoting from someplace else, according to Nintendo in the press releases, the battery charges in 3 hours versus 5 on the original. And depending on your usage and screen brightness and all that other stuff, the battery life is between 5 to 15 hours. That's what you heard too, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it's close to that. I mean, I guess depending on the obviously this the brightness factor involved.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do basically the same thing as I did before. I'm going to let this thing charge up. I'm going to record my numbers, and then I'm going to put on Tetris bright as possible in Wi-Fi mode. I'm just going to let it burn down until it finishes, and then we'll be able to know. Worst case scenario. That's what I'm really looking for. That's what people want to know. They don't want to know, well, if you're on level 2 brightness with 50% playtime on Wi-Fi, how long will my battery last? They want to know.
Yeah, we'll just be waiting for those questions.
If I've got it turned on full bore with everything turned on, all the trimmings, how long am I going to get? That's what people want to know. And I'm betting it's going to clock in. I bet it's going to clock in at over 5 hours, to be honest with you. Because, like I said, it went for 4, and I didn't even have a red light on yet. So we'll see what happens. That's the best I can give you. When you open up the battery case, the battery itself is not as easy to pull out as the original DS. So I would not expect to see consumer battery replacement products like we had for the original DS. God willing, you won't need to replace the battery as often because you're going to be able to get 5 to 15 hours of playtime on this thing, which means you can fly to the Bahamas and not recharge the battery.
Nice.
So that's the game plan. So we'll give you updates on that. Again, I just haven't had it long enough or had enough time to actually give you the full skinny.
Yeah, it's charging and checking the battery power for all these settings and various environments. Yeah, it's going to take a little time to get a real world feel for it.
But we're going to give you the real deal, and we'll tell you how long. We'll tell you
website.
how long this sucker's going to run.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the listener questions. We've kind of touched everything. We talked about the screens. We talked about how it looks, how it feels, how it works. And now we had a lot of people with some great questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. Some of these are fairly ambiguous, and some of these are one of those ones that it's a personal preference. I'll give you my overview. Hopefully, if you've listened to Retro Gaming Radio before, there's my show plug, or you've listened to Dual Screen Radio long enough to kind of get a feel for how I am, then you'll be able to use my opinion for what it's worth. Okay.
Yeah, some of these questions, I mean, I'm actually looking over them, and some of them we've actually already answered. So,
I expected to see things like, should I fake my orgasm? I mean, that's one of the kind of questions we were getting. It's like, well, how the hell do I know?
What color should I wear with my pants?
Yeah. If I have an ice blue DS Lite, what kind of shirt color should I wear with that? It's like, dude, what are you telling me? I don't know.
Well, I went through here and I've kind of cleaned it up a bit because some of these questions, like I said, we've kind of already answered just in your synopsis of the system. In terms of size and brightness, and one of the questions was, how's it look in the sun? You've already answered that.
Yes, I have.
So
you can pose the question, since you've been keeping track and I haven't. You can pose the questions that are still remaining, and then I'll answer them, and we'll fill in any blanks along the way.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
We'll get started. Our buddy here, Quick Straw in the forum, wanted to know a couple things. Is it, first of all, overall worth the upgrade from the original DS to the DS Lite? And he says, I know it's cool and better, but is it truly worth putting out the cash for it versus using that same money for some great games?
I'm going to answer that question sort of what we've already talked about. It all depends on your use case. If you're a shut-in and you're in a dark room a lot of the time, or you're in low lighting, and the size doesn't bother you, the buttons don't bother you, you have power available to you a lot. I mean, that's a lot of people, believe it or not. That's a lot of people. And if that's the case, I'd say no. I would say that you're probably better suited. If you're asking the question, you probably are more fitting the category or the candidate of not upgrading. Now, When do I think it's going to be the right time? If there's a killer bundle package, let's say that the DS Lite, my guess, just a guess, the DS Lite's going to ship with a Super Mario bundle pack. In fact, GameStop actually told me in their computer They have a DS bundle with Super Mario Brothers coming out in June. That's what their computer says. Now, that would be sweet. If you could shave $20 out. Let's say you're going to buy the new Super Mario Brothers anyway. Right? So there's going to be $34 because you know that's not going to be
No, that's
it's going to be $35.
Are you kidding? They're milking Mario, man.
They're going to milk Mario to the hilt. So what you're going to end up getting is a DS Lite with Super Mario Brothers, and you're going to get $10, $15, $20 shaved off the price because you're buying a bundle.
Yeah, because most of their bundles have been about $149.
Yeah.
So, and you know, to be honest with you, I'm thinking right now that this DS Lite, we're going to probably, this is just my thought on this, you know, after reading some of the information I've seen, but I'm thinking this thing's going to be $129, and the DS itself, the old DS, is going to be popped down to $99. Because in a lot of the ads lately, you've seen that they're trying to almost clear out the old DS by including some free game with it. Like
I've seen 2 free games, actually.
Yeah, you can get Mario Kart for free this week, I believe, at Best Buy when you buy the DS. I mean, that's insane. So I think they're trying to clear stock. I think they know that this thing's coming. So if the new Super Mario Brothers is going to be stocked in with the DS Lite, I'm thinking it's probably going to be about $150, which would be a killer deal. I mean,
that's a good deal. I mean, you're going to pay you're going to pay the $35 anyway. So you're talking about saving $10, $15, $20. And that's one of those things where it's like, man, you know, that's one of those things where it becomes sort of an impulse. You know, I needed a second DS anyway. My kid's nagging me. You know, that's what a lot of my friends are saying. My friends are saying, I've got one DS in the house. I'm sharing it with my kids. They need their own DS, but I'm holding out so I can get myself a Lite and they can have the old DS. So it comes down to economics. You know, can you afford it? You know, do you need a second DS in the house? Or what are you planning to do with the original one? Are you going to keep it as a backup? What? Can you sell it? You sell it back. You know, if you're going to sell it, I'd probably get it back to GameStop as soon as possible, because once the new ones are $99, the new original DSs are $99, your trade-in value just dropped probably $30.
They'll probably give you about $25-$30 for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're giving now, but
yeah, I don't know. I should find out.
It's probably, if you're only going to get $25-$30, it's not even worth it. You're better off
give it to somebody else and let them be converted. That's what I've been doing. I've been loaning out my extra ones to friends who, you know, are thinking about it, but they're still on the fence. It's like, here, tell you what, I'll give you some games. I'll give you the unit. Go take it home for the weekend and play it.
Yeah, here's Elf Bowling. Here's Snood. Have fun.
That's messed up. Here's Sprung.
Yeah.
No, you know, my kid loves Sprung. I don't care what anybody says. My kid absolutely loves Sprung. And I know a guy at work, I'm not going to mention his name to save face, but, dude, he was like playing Sprung for a long time. I kind of like the concept, but I don't know. Anyway, let's move along. I don't want to get on a Sprung review.
Well, the next question is also from Quick Straw. He asks, is the light small enough to fit in your shirt pocket?
You know, funny thing, as soon as I saw that, I went over to one of my work shirts and I threw the DS Lite in my shirt pocket and I took a picture of it. So you should be able to go to our picture gallery and take a look at that picture.
Nice.
The short answer is, yeah, it fits.
Is it a ice blue shirt that you're wearing?
No, but it's a dark blue, so it offsets it very nicely.
Nice.
It almost looks like, you know, like the old school days when they put handkerchiefs in their pockets.
Yeah.
And it sticks out a little bit. This doesn't stick out a little bit, but the way I had my white, the ice blue comes with a white strap. So I had the white strap sticking out, so it kind of had that, you know,
nice
Southern gentleman DS Lite look to it. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so it's comfortable enough to fit in your pocket, and yeah, you know, a lot of times, I mean, I'm a big guy, so my shirts are probably a little bigger than yours are going to be, but there's a lot of room to kick around in there, and I'd say it's comfortable. In my short pockets, when I took it to the movie theater the other day,
nice deep ones, huh?
Yeah, I have nice deep pockets, but not all of my pockets are deep, which is why I've dropped my DS a couple of times. If I'm at the theater, movie starts, I'll stuff it in my pocket, and then I put my legs up on the bars in front of you. Sometimes the DS will slide out, and it falls to the ground. That's why I've dropped it a couple times.
Dropping it in the movie theater wouldn't be the best place.
No, hell no. I mean, you'd be scraping gum off that thing for a week. But but the DS Lite does not have that problem. It sits a little more comfortably in the pocket. It's the smaller form factor.
Great.
Definitely keeps it tight in the pocket a little bit better. So, yep, it fits. Yes. Take a look at the picture. You'll see.
Okay, next question. How well does the filler cart stay in there?
That was something I did fail to mention when I mentioned the physical properties. One of the things that bugged a lot of people was if you didn't have a DS or a Game Boy Advance game in the unit, you had this big gaping hole in the front of your DS. Well, Nintendo heard your cries, and they came up
dust.
Yes, please put a lot of dust in me. I'd like that a lot. Thank you. What they came up with is what I call a null cartridge. It's a little. Let me see. Where's my DS?
Null cartridge. I love your names for these things.
Null
this
cartridge.
is great.
I'm holding the null cart right up to an actual. You know what? I'll take a picture of this. You guys.
I got my man sack. I got my null
man
cartridge.
sack and my null cart. It sounds like something from Tron, doesn't it?
I got my strap on.
Oh, come on now, simmer down. No, I'm going to go ahead and take a picture so you guys can see how big the null cart is next to the actual Game Boy Advance cart, my Konami Advance. It's about a half an inch shorter than a cartridge. And how does it fit in? Well, it fits in comfortably. It feels like it'll stay in there, but I have a weird feeling that if you took it in and out a lot, eventually it's going to loosen up, and you probably won't stay in there. No rattling. No rattling at all. Oh, hey, good news. It is now 9 o'clock, and the DS Lite has been plugged in for just 7 minutes shy of 3 hours, and it is fully charged.
Sweet.
Less than a 3-hour charge, so now we know.
Breaking news, folks. During the exclusive DS Lite show.
Okay, so that's awesome, dude. Teletype. So you put this cartridge in, and this is something that's actually cool. At first glance, you look, man, they just like molded a piece of plastic. It actually feels like a cartridge in terms of its construction. And get this. This is brilliant. I'm not sure if this is brilliant or if it's stupid. But if you look inside this thing, there's actually an edge connector in here. So when you slide this cartridge into place, it actually physically connects to the edge connector inside. That alone may keep this thing on. And there's no rattling. This is not a loose item.
So it actually has like the little slot that the cartridge shoves into is actually present on the null cartridge.
Yes, the null cartridge has a little edge connector in it. Yeah,
I like that.
So this is something where I thought, I'm just going to end up losing this bitch. It's just going to be gone. But, now that I look at it and I actually figure out how the sealing mechanism works, it's actually pretty clever.
Yeah, speaking of resale value again, that's something you would not want to lose. Obviously, that would bring the value down a little bit.
That's like losing your battery cover.
Yeah. If you auctioned this off and said, null cartridge not included, up there goes a couple of your bidders, So.
Hey, you know what I was just thinking? I was going to ask you, because I never had an original Game Boy Advance. I didn't get into it until the SP came along. But did it have a removable battery cover?
Yes, it did.
Dude.
It had to have. The original Game Boy Advance, yes.
Yeah, it used batteries, right?
It used 2 AA's, yeah.
Dude, this is insane. I was at the pizza parlor the other day, and I saw a kid with the original Game Boy Advance. My wife is so funny. She's so cute. She's like, is that a PSP? And I'm like, no. And she's like, is that one of the new lights? I'm like, no. That's like the original Game Boy Advance, honey. But you know what's funny? Every time I see an original Game Boy Advance, there's no battery cover on it. It's like
amazing.
It's like the Speak and Spell.
Yeah.
I have never been able to find a Speak and Spell for sale because that was one of my childhood toys growing up, so I wanted to have one. I looked on eBay left and right trying to find a Speak and Spell. Every single one of them is missing the battery cover.
Well, I would hope a DS Lite or even the original DS wouldn't be missing it. I mean, you got to screw the things on to begin with.
Yeah, it's screwed on. I can understand it.
The originals, they popped right off. I mean,
That's so funny. I know that was kind of a segue there, but I thought that was really funny to see like the original. Every time I see an original Game Boy Advance, there's no battery cover on it.
Even on the original Game Boy, it's the same idea.
That's right. I remember that.
That took 4 AA's, and
yeah,
I mean, that cover. I've seen a lot of them like laying in a dustbin. Like at like EB Games or something. You'll see them once in a blue moon. You'll see one just kind of sitting there, begging, like that old dog in the dog pet store window.
Please take me.
Yeah, the dog with the third leg or missing a leg, only 3 legs.
You know what? We're gonna lose our status as a clean podcast if you keep up with these innuendos.
That poor Game Boy just kind of sitting in the window begging for somebody to buy him for like $4.99.
We'll
missing
play
a battery
games for
cover.
food.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. The filler cart is very cool. It's not. Normally, I would look at one of those things and I'd say that's filler. I mean, when you say it says they call it a filler card, but you know how like when you say like the Sony PlayStation Portable Value Pack, and they include a bunch of crap you don't need. When I first heard about the filler card, I was thinking, that sounds like a bullet point for the box. It sounds like it'd be kind of worthless. But the fact that they constructed it right and that it's a nice tight fit and it's got the edge connector on it, all right, I'll let them have it.
All right. I guess that answers that question pretty thoroughly. So,
and then some.
Our next question comes from Caladron. Actually, he's asking a couple questions. Another guy from the forum here. Our opinions on the hanging of the lip from the top unit of the unit when it opens. What do you?
This is interesting. If you look at screenshots, this is really funny. If you look at pictures of the DS Lite and you open it up, there's like a hard ridge on the upper part of it, on the upper part of the DS. And his question was basically, he said it would bother him. And he said, I'd be curious to know if it bothers you. And it's like, to be honest with you, it has absolutely nothing to do with using the unit at all. In other words, you don't care. I mean, literally, I have not given it a second thought since I got the unit. The lip doesn't cast a shadow. It's not obtrusive. It doesn't cut you. It's not sharp. I mean, there's no reason to care about it. Let's put it that way. It's natural because the bottom screen is sort of elevated a little bit from the bottom, so it's kind of on a little raised like plateau.
Yeah.
And the top screen's kind of inset. Well, I guess it's not that inset. But anyway, the way that this thing works is when you close it, there's a positive lip. Now, this is cool. I mean, this is a cool thing. The lip actually looks like it protects the inside. Now, I'm not going to actually try this out because I love my light. But if you were to spill something on here, or you were to get like in a dust storm, well, okay, what are the chances of that? Running through the rain, whatever, this lip would actually keep things from getting inside the cavity where the buttons and the screens are. So while it's probably nothing for aesthetic purposes or for practical purposes, that's how I look at it. And you know what? It doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I think it kind of makes it look cool. It kind of makes it look...
It gives it like that overall smooth surface, on the side.
It's funny. You know what it reminds me of, and this sounds kind of goofy? It kind of makes it feel kind of like a Game & Watch game.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it does. I mean, I don't think even the Game & Watches had that lip, but for some reason the whole thing feels a little more Game & Watchish when you have that lip on there.
Which is funny, because where do you think they got the idea for the DS in the first place?
Exactly right.
But
there you go.
That's something interesting. So does this thing open up easily? Like if you flip it over and shake it, it's not going to flip open right away.
Oh hell no, it's tight.
No, it's pretty tight. Good.
It's tight. Let me compare in terms of the original DS.
Oh yeah, now the old DS, we don't need that anymore. Let's get some. Let's really test the spillage theory on that and get some Hawaiian punch on it now.
Yeah, they actually, I swear, somebody at Nintendo at Quality Assurance probably actually did this. They held them both upside down and they shook them. They both kind of open up a little bit the same way. I mean, if you shake it hard enough, eventually it'll open up a little bit, but it's the same as the original. So
yeah, because the original I thought worked pretty decent.
Yeah. If the original's good for you, then this is good for you.
Yeah, unless you're actually mugging the thing, it should pretty much stay shut.
Exactly.
So. Okay, Caladron's next question was, how does the rumble pack size affect the light?
Well, again, it's the rumble pack is the exact same size as an original Game Boy Advance cartridge, so it sticks out about a half an inch. Now, it doesn't bother me. I actually fired it up and played Metroid Pinball on it. It doesn't bother me. The thing sticking out of the bottom, I know this sounds really bizarre, but if you were to take, and I'm going to do this while I'm talking about it, if you were to take, say, your Game Boy Advance cartridge and stick it in the slot, I'm going to take a picture of this, too, so that you can see it. Because this is something that's really hard to explain without a picture. My wife originally kind of complained about it because she still has some Game Boy Advance games. She was like, I don't like it sticking out underneath like that. That kind of bugs me.
It's not clean looking anymore.
It's not clean anymore. But you know what? It's very practical. Here's what I want you guys to do. Get out your original DSs. Stick a Game Boy Advance cartridge in. It sticks out a little bit. Right? Or no, it doesn't stick out. My SuperCard sticks out. That's what it is.
Yeah, the SuperCard has a
My
problem.
SuperCard sticks out. We're not going to talk about the SuperCard, but the SuperCard sticks out just a little bit more than the Game Boy Advance game does.
It's like a little lip. Yeah, it's about maybe like a quarter of an inch or so.
Yeah, it's on the DS Lite it even sticks out more, but it's enough. Now get this. It's enough that you can put your thumb on it and balance and rest the other part of the DS on your finger. It's really hard to explain unless you've actually done it.
So in terms of ergonomics, it's a little useful.
It's very useful. I actually find myself, and I'm going to take pictures so you can see it. You have to see the pictures before this makes sense. But ergonomically, it only works for touch games. In other words, if you're playing a 100% touch game, then it works absolutely stellar because you actually have something to rest on. You're not gripping the DS while you're playing with your right hand or your left hand, scratching on the screen. It balances comfortably in your hand. take a look at the pictures, and if you still don't get it, maybe I'll shoot a quick video that shows how I utilize it. But now, not just SuperCard people, but people who actually just have original Game Boy Advance cartridges can stick one of these guys in there, and you now have a lip to rest your thumb on while you're doing your scratch games.
Nice.
It's very cool. So look at it this way. Is it a bad thing or a good thing that it sticks out? Hard to say. I use my SuperCard a lot, so I'm used to something sticking out. For other people, it may bother you. But look at it from an ergonomic standpoint. It's so much more comfortable.
Great.
So much more comfortable to actually have that little thing to rest your thumb on while you're scratching. Now, it doesn't help for action games, of course, because you got to have your fingers up there and all that. But it doesn't really get in the way.
Like Metroid Prime Hunters, you probably wouldn't help you too much.
Metroid Prime Hunters would be absolutely no help whatsoever.
Yeah, that's where I would need help. Within 15 minutes, my hand is actually asleep from playing.
Yeah, it controls very nicely, but you got to get your hand. You got to condition your hand to play that game.
The way my ring and pinky finger are kind of just dangling behind the DS. It's like I all of a sudden I hit a nerve in there somewhere after 15 minutes and my whole hand's asleep.
Weird. Yeah, I don't have that problem, but it does get a little trying.
What can I say?
If you watch the video, you'll see me trying to play Metroid Prime Hunters, and I'm like, my hands are I'm hugging the tripod, trying to get my hands around so that I can hit all the buttons.
Yeah.
It's practically impossible. You'll see me get my butt kicked. I don't want to hear any comments about how much I suck at Metroid Prime Hunters because I'm hugging this tripod. It's insane the contortions that I had to do to get that video done for you.
I'm groping my DS Lite.
I'm groping it.
Yeah. Okay, moving on a little bit here.
Yeah.
We got a couple more questions. Actually, a couple questions from Spike in the forums. Actually, I guess these are kind of more or less, we kind of went over them a little bit. He's just wondering what the build quality was like. We kind of touched on that a lot. And is the new shiny exterior more likely to pick up scratches, which is something I actually originally asked.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, would you say it's anything close to what the iPod would be, in terms of scratching it? I mean, you look at the iPod wrong, and that thing's going to have a hairline fracture on it. You know what I mean? Do you get that same feeling from this?
Honestly, I haven't had my hands on enough iPods to really be able to tell you. I can tell you that I don't feel it would scratch, but I do feel that it could crack if you were to drop it.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I would think. But it also looks like it may be possible to replace these things. I'm not going to sit here and dig on them.
You could take the whole top shell where the lip is actually coming off of, and
well, the lip itself, the lip itself is two parts. One of it's the actual unit, and then part of it's the shell.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure you can take this off or not, and I'm not going to pry on it to find out.
Oh, come on, man, for the show.
For the show. No, but it looks like it may be possible to replace it, or maybe not. If it's really firmly adhesive to the unit, it may not even crack if you drop it.
Yeah, that's probably something you could send back to Nintendo, and they could probably slap a new one on and send it back to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, his next question was that, he's heard that the touchscreen has some kind of a texture grain added to it. I mean, he's just wondering if this makes for better style eye accuracy.
Let me see if there's actually any room for me to actually give a tactile feel to it. It does look different. I'm not sure if I could say it was better. I'm trying to look at my original and this together at the same time.
Speaking of that real fast, the original DSs, I mean, we've seen this before where people are asking, it's almost like it has two different types of touchscreens.
Yeah.
I mean, one's kind of got a more of a greasy look to it, like you're rubbing your finger all over it, and you kind of get that sparkling rainbow effect.
Yeah.
And then you get the other people's DSs where you actually can see the little I don't know what they would call them, but they're the little white dots in the grid-like structure all over the for the interface for writing.
I'm trying to compare here, and because I got screen protectors on both of them.
Yeah,
I'll be honest,
getting away a little.
This actually looks more. Hang on a second. Let me see. Let me look in the different light here. It looks more. My red actually, I can actually see grooves or something to the touchscreen. I can actually see diagonal lines in the touchscreen, just a little piece I can see around my screen protector. But if I look at the DS Lite, I don't see those grooves. It does look like the screen may be more higher resolution of touching.
Yeah.
I will have to give it some thought. The best way I can test this for you is to play Trauma Center. Then I can tell you.
Nice.
Because Trauma Center will definitely be the game that requires the most accuracy. Carving out those little clots and stuff and the tumors, that takes a lot of precision. I'd be curious to see how well this plays on that.
Yeah, because you're involved with a lot of high-speed touching with that too.
Yeah, high-speed touching is good. So we'll post a little follow-up on that.
Yeah,
one.
that's nothing too major, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and then the thing is, once you get the light on that thing, once you turn it on the brightest settings, you're not going to see anything. You can't even tell you have a screen protector on.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, if you look at the pictures, you see the pictures, you see the video, the screen protector's on the whole time.
Totally oblivious to the fact that it's there.
You won't even notice. No. It's not a big deal.
Okay, next question comes from Dominus. And he wants to know, is there a new thumb strap that doesn't fall off the finger as well?
Well, this is a truly amazing thing. There is no thumb shield anymore. It's gone.
Gasp.
It's gone. I am looking at my official white Nintendo strap that came with the Lite. There's no longer a thumb shield. It's gone.
Interesting.
So there is something for you to think about. If you are a thumb shield person, I would recommend hopping up on store.nintendo.com and buying a couple of extra straps, because once they're gone, you're not going to be able to find these things anywhere. They're going to go for like $30 on eBay, and they're like $4.99 now if you were to buy one. I've actually bought a couple of extra ones myself, but the thumb thing works really good for for Mario World 64.
Super Mario World 64.
Yeah, that works really good for that, and that's pretty much that. And there was another one, Rayman, it works pretty good for. But overall, yeah.
Well, even in Metroid Hunters, they tried to use that at first, but I personally found the stylus to be perfectly
the new control method, the original, the pack-in, the first hunt, the thumb shield seemed to work okay, but for the actual game, they changed over to using a combo stylus control, and it works a lot better. They did a smart thing getting rid of the thumb shield. So
I know I saw a lot of people complaining actually that thumb shield tended to scratch their screen a little more.
Yeah, well. If you don't have protectors on, you deserve to get your screen scratched. But that's just my thought on it.
I really rarely use the thing, but as you said, grab them while you can.
Here's your warning. Everyone says, "Oh man, I wish I would have known that those were going to go out of production, so I could have gotten some and sold them on eBay." Hello, here you go.
You could probably even call them up. You could probably even say, look, I'm missing my thumb strap, and they would probably just send you one. Nintendo's usually pretty cool, like things like that.
Yeah, you could just say it didn't come in the box. Can I get one sent? And they'd probably send it to you. I mean, like I said, it's $4.99 to buy one. Yeah. And I bought a couple of extra ones myself just because, I figured I'd end up breaking one or something. So.
Well, anyway, next question. This is actually a question I was going to ask, but I figured, I might as well save it for the questions. Is the sound better? It's from Gondar. Is the sound better on the DS Lite, or is it equivalent to the old version? And I was going to ask, how are the speakers? Are they any better? Or because from the pictures, it looks like you have less little openings for the speaker. But in reality, on the old DS, some of them aren't even full-fledged holes.
What would you say would be a game that would have the best sound on it that I could test that with? We'll test it right here on the air.
I'll be honest with you. Awenden, I would have to say, has the loudest sound I've heard on the DS.
Oh, God, I don't even know where that
I
is.
know.
Give me something else here. You know what? Metroid Pinball, everyone says, has great music.
Metroid Pinball, perfect.
All right.
Put it in.
So we're going to first, I'm going to torture myself and put it back in my
I knew
hold.
I would hit you with that.
Yeah, I knew you were going to get me with something. I knew as soon as I said, give me a game, you're going to go,
I was trying to think in the meantime. I know you don't have this one ready.
Yeah, you bastard. Okay, so I'm going to fire up Pinball here. Okay, yeah, it's got some nice spatial
I can hear it already.
Yeah, there we go. Boy, I'll tell you what, it sure looks a lot better on the Lite. Okay, let me get into the game here.
Here, put that thing closer to the speaker. Let's hear that a little bit.
You're not going to be able to tell the difference, but at least you can hear some Metroid Pinball music.
Great.
All right. Man, I'll tell you what, the games look 100% different on the Lite.
All right, let's not get too stuck on that game there, dude. We got some more questions here.
Okay, so I just wanted to hear the music a little bit. Stop talking for a second. Okay, I've got a good bass line. All right, off with that. Into the Lite you go.
That's got a nice little rock riff. I love that.
Yeah, that's good music on that. Okay, I'm going to turn this guy up too. Right. Spatial's good. And I'm so busy looking at the colors. It's hard for me to remember the looks into the music.
Close your eyes.
I would call it no discernible difference. I don't know, dude. That sounds a little bit cleaner, but it could just be the visuals tricking me.
Well, you know what though? Either way, I always thought from the very beginning I was really impressed with the speakers on this system.
I was always impressed with them.
I mean, my brother's got a PSP, and I was always trying to find the volume, trying to make it louder. And he would turn around and say, "It's already all the way up." And I said, "Dude, I can't hear anything."
Right.
Which
It's
I
had
guess
such good spatial quality to them.
Which I guess would make you say, well, I guess it's time to buy the official PSP headset.
Right. Yeah, you have to get the headset so it's got a booster on it or something.
It's got to be a PSP one.
There we go. All right, well.
That sounds great. So either way, it's still good, and there's certainly no lesser sound quality.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't take a hit. I would
if
say
anything, it's going to be a little better.
If anything, it's maybe a tad better. But
Yeah.
again, your eyes tend to bleed over to your ears, and you're looking at how good it looks, and eventually, you say to yourself, man, it's got to sound better too. But that could not be the case.
Fantastic.
All right, what's next?
Okay. Well, let's see here. The left and right shoulder buttons. The son of Sun, that's S-O-N of S-U-N, would like to know if they still have that kind of clicky sound.
Yes, they do.
Or if they have a clicky sound.
Let me see here. Let me compare the button feels. The
I know
buttons
it's a
are
crazy
smaller.
question, but I'll tell you, the durability of these shoulder buttons is really an important thing. I mean,
they have the same responsive feel to them. They're still clickies. They're not
nice.
squishy like the rest of the buttons are.
It's a very subtle click too.
I will tell you this: they are recessed into the case. They do not stick out like the original DS does. That could be a problem for some people. For me personally, I played a lot of Tetris on the Lite, and the right button is the one that chambers one of your pieces or to the whole piece. I don't notice any problem with it. So I like the fact that they're recessed and not sticking out. That gives the overall unit a more clean appearance, and it doesn't seem to affect the gameplay at all.
Good, great.
So there you go.
Okay, next question. When is this thing coming out in the States, and why are you covering it now? BJ Wanlund.
We're covering it now because exclusivity and being able to get things ahead of the regular crowd are that's what people strive to do. People like to be the first one to post news. They want to be the first one to talk about a new product.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah, and it gives people a chance, like I was saying before, if you're on the fence whether you're going to buy another DS for the house or you're going to wait and buy a DS Lite for yourself and give your kid the old DS Lite, whatever, you need to know ahead of time. So people usually can't drop 150 bones when something comes out. They have to save a little bit for it. Or they need an extra month or two to talk their wife into it, whatever. So you give people as much lead time as you can. That's why Nintendo, now when we get bigger, hopefully someday, Nintendo will be crawling all over us to give us stuff to play with and give you early reviews. Unfortunately, we're not there yet, so we have to pay our $222.90 just like everybody else. But that's why we're covering it now.
That's the perfect reason because, and word is that this is coming out sometime in May. That seems to be what everybody's saying right now. And here we are a full month beforehand. So it's kind of nice to be able to even mention this product. Normally, we'd probably be like everybody, for the most part, most of these people that would get them on the day they actually came out. And it's kind of more of an after the fact, But here we are a month earlier, and we're actually able to give you some information and a hands-on approach to how this thing works and if it's worth your money, So I think it's really a good idea to do this now.
And if it gets pushed back till June, which is possible, I mean, if the DS Lite bundle with Super Mario Brothers is going to be pushed, actually in June, like GameStop says, maybe the unit itself got pushed back to June. We don't know. We're just guessing.
Right. But even if you wanted to import it, right now it's expensive. It'd be nice to know what kind of money you're investing in.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Is it worth getting a month early or 2 months early and paying an extra, $70? Probably not.
Or at all.
Or at all. It depends on your needs, man. I mean, we get all stoked about some things, but if the screen's good for you and the size is good for you on the original, and a lot of people, my wife hates the Lite. My wife doesn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, can you believe that? My wife doesn't like it. Doesn't like it at all.
Well, it's funny because, I guess that makes, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you think, are women more cost conscious? Yeah, compared to men, but I don't know.
My kid, of course, wants one right now. I mean, she wants this light blue one, and she's like just chomping at the bit. You never have to pay me allowance again if you let me have it. Yeah. Things like that. And my wife's like,
same old excuses.
My wife's like, you pay $200 for that? That sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not on board with the DS Lite kick. But, my kid is, and everyone I've showed it to, there are a lot of people that I meet at GameStop that will not buy a DS until the Lite ships. That's what they're waiting for. And so this gives them a chance to get some inside information. Maybe it's not worth waiting for. Maybe they'll go ahead and, pop it out and pick up a used DS at the store. Who knows?
Well, BJ had a couple other questions. We kind of answered these to a point a little bit, but Are the screens significantly more protected, and will we need a screen protector? Well, we already went on the screen protector kick. I would get one no matter what.
Yeah,
definitely. It's like buying a Palm Pilot. I mean, you get a screen protector for that. You get a screen protector for this. And the screens, I mean, I always thought the original DS, the screens were protected great.
That's what I thought too. And this is as good or better.
Yeah, I mean, you get that little bit of a lip, I guess.
Yeah, it really makes a lot more sense. I didn't really think about the lip thing until we started talking about it. But I look at my original DS. I mean, literally, if you were to like spill something on here, it would just go right on in. I mean, there's absolutely nothing keeping it from going in and hitting your buttons or screens. The lip actually makes sense the more I look at it.
Yeah, because the old one, it basically had those little rubber bumpers to keep the things from connecting, the screens and the controls from hitting.
This is a lot nicer.
He's just also wondering, is it worth the import price? Was it worth it to you? Let's put it that way.
Well, my needs are a little bit different. I had a show to do, and I'm kind of an early adopter a lot of times anyway, and I was excited to get my paws on one.
Just like the GP2X.
It's just like the GP2X. You know, I got one of those on order as soon as they came out because I knew I wanted to be in on the ground floor with the development and all that stuff. In this case, you know, literally, if you can save $70 now, right now, if you could go up, let's say that it's settled down in Japan, which I don't know if this is the case. If you go to Lixang or Lifesang, whatever, and they're available for $169 plus shipping, there's no surcharge, there's no extra money. Sure, why not? I mean, the thing is fully NTSC compatible. There's no region code. You don't need a step-down transformer or anything for the power. Literally, it's like buying a retail unit. When the only reason that I'll buy a different one is so that I can get my dark blue. That's the only reason that I would do.
Not only that, but if you import it into America, you know, the warranty is also going to be kind of shot too.
That's a good point. Totally
you're not going to have
any
warranty. You're not going to be able to send your Japanese DS or DS Lite back to, you know, Nintendo of America. They're just not going to look at it.
There you go. I totally forgot about that.
So if you have a dead pixel, if you import this DS Lite and you get like 2 or whatever pixels missing and you're crazy about that, you're kind of out of luck. Unless you wait for the U.S. release, I guess, whenever that happens, and
that's a good
swap
point.
them out. So.
Yeah, and I haven't heard, you know, that's one interesting point. I have not yet heard of anybody with a DS Lite that has a dead pixel. So maybe they took care of the fabrication thing. Yeah, stepped up the production or whatever.
Well, it's obviously got to be a different screen.
It's definitely a different screen, yeah.
So the technology is probably a little better. And finally, we have one more question here. Is the DS Lite's touch screen any more accurate when you're using your finger to activate powers in games such as Super Princess Peach and Beautiful Joe? And
you know, that's an absolutely brilliant question because I have not yet played Super Princess Peach. I'll tell you, I have a big problem with Princess Peach. I continually hit the stupid crying emotion when I mean to hit the flying happy emotion. Those of you who know what the game is understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going to the dark side here. There are 4 main areas on the touch screen that you activate her powers with, and if you miss a jump, it's definitely worth hitting your happy emotion, which makes you fly, so you don't die. So I'm constantly in a case where I'm making a jump, I miss the jump, I'm about to fall to my death, and I rush my thumb over to touch the happy emotion, and she starts crying, and you die. And it's like, then I start crying. No, but yeah, that's a very good question. And Beautiful Joe had the same sort of thing. You're in this high action sequence, and you need to split the screen so that you can take out a bad guy. And sometimes you're like, damn it, grab the screen. There we go. So it'll be a good thing. I still want to play. I still haven't finished Beautiful Joe, so that'll be a good test for me to hop in and try it out. Because there are some games that are designed to be used with your fingers. Like I think Ultimate Spider-Man is like that. There's like 4 big, huge buttons on the bottom screen. And that, along with, for those of you who are retro gamers listening to the show, when Intellivision Lives comes out for the DS, they're going to have the numeric touch screen.
Wait. I gotta get my bib. And put that on first.
I know.
Now continue.
Can you imagine that? So the buttons that are on the original Intellivision controller will actually be simulated by the touch screen.
That's going to be so
accuracy
cool, man.
in the touch screen will definitely be something to check out.
So cool.
Yeah, I actually got to play it when I was at CGE, so it was still, you know, early beta, but to actually play Astro Smash on the DS was the bomb.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm hoping we'll see something at E3 because I mean, Astro Smash didn't even benefit from really that control scheme.
It didn't at all. But if something like Star Battle or something would be it.
Or Sea Battle. Sea Battle was unplayable without that. So that's and then wireless Sea Battle between 2 people.
That would be it. If you can play wireless in television games, that'd be the bomb.
I'm so excited.
I know. I'm all excited. I'm all at Twitter.
I I'd be happy to say that I paid $39.99 for that game.
Absolutely. I don't care what
And
anybody
single
says.
cart play, forget it. It's over.
Yeah, I'd lose my mind, dude. I would lose my mind.
Well, I guess that wraps up the questions. So.
All right. And what about you? I mean, do you have any other questions whilst I have this oot and a boot?
Well, I have to ask you, since I already mentioned it, and this probably doesn't really have much to do with anything on here, but some of the guys that listen in the forum, and I know are other fans other than the DS, they might like to know this. How is the screen quality compared to your GP2X?
That's a great question. Let's find out. I've actually not put them up side by side. I'll take a picture while I'm looking at it.
I think that would be a nice thing. I think a lot of people would be interested to see.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you're right. So
I mean, I don't own a GP2X, but you're always going on about it. And
yeah,
I
will
have
leave.
a great affinity for the system.
Oh my! Yeah, I'd say the DS Lite pretty much kicks his butt. Let me see here. Let me adjust my colors. Let me adjust my brightness here, so that I can match. I can try to, as close to possible, match the brightness settings here. Let me see. Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't even see that one coming.
Sorry.
I would say, no, that's good, though. This is good. That means I can get a picture. I would say the GP2X clocks in about brightness level 2 on the DS.
So it's a little better. The GP2X is obviously a little better than the original DS.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will turn this guy on. I will leave this on like standard default boot up here so that it's on screen level 3, which is the default for when you power up the light. I will take a screenshot of pictures. I will take a screenshot. I will take a picture. Boy, the GP2X looks almost big compared to this guy now. That's funny. I used to think the GPX was pretty small.
No, the GP2X can play Commodore 64.
That's right, exactly right. So,
sorry, DS Lite.
Yeah, sorry, you've been served. Okay, let me turn off the flash here and see if I can get a good shot without ruining anything here. Yeah, we'll see how that comes out. I'm not dragging the tripod out for this one. But yeah, so there you have it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, I can also watch like Xvids on this thing where I can't watch them on the DS Lite yet. So you got to take your trade.
Now let me ask you one other question.
Yeah.
The DS Lite. How do you actually select the brightness levels?
When you power it up on the main screen, there's a little icon that turns on and off the backlight on the original DS.
Right.
All you do is tap that and it cycles through the color, the brightnesses.
So it's not something you can do within a game like you can on the SP then, obviously.
I'm sure programmatically you could do it. I mean, you could turn on and off the backlight in many games. But most games, of course, are not going to have...
True. So it just switches it on and off. So maybe if you hit it in the game on the new DS Lite, it'll actually cycle through. I can never really understand the point of turning the backlight off.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, unless you have like a spotlight like on your DS, you're not going to be able to see anything.
But even then, the screen just is not as reflective as the original Game Boy Advance or SP were. So it's still not even nearly as close as getting any kind of degree of playability from it.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree. But now, future games certainly would be able to take advantage of the brightness. I mean, it can be done programmatically. So,
yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm betting, if anything, something like that new Boktai game. You might see something
that would make sense. I would actually see, especially if they're going to bundle Super Mario, the new Super Mario Brothers, with it. I could see that one maybe being the first game that supports different brightness levels.
Yeah.
But you select it before you go into the game, so it's not like. I guess it'd be useful if you're traveling, you go into a tunnel, or it gets overcast or something, and it gets darker. You want to turn the screen down a little bit.
It's not even a big issue. Because
not a big issue, but that's a good question.
Before you start the game, you're going to pretty much have the point of what light setting you want. I mean,
exactly.
even if you go into a tunnel, the lowest setting is still going to be perfectly usable.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's too bright and it washes out a little bit, no big deal. You'll be out of the tunnel in a minute.
Yeah. I guess do you have anything else to add? Otherwise, I guess that wraps it about up for our DS Explosive Exclusive.
Explosive Exclusive. Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that, definitely check out the pictures, check out the video, and by the time you're listening to this, the video will be on Google Video and probably, what is it, YourTube or YouTube, whatever?
YouTube? Yeah, you sent it to YouTube too, huh?
Yeah, well, no, I haven't yet, but
okay.
I've got it pending at Google Video. So worst case scenario, if the speed at Zacium or something is too slow, or Zacium is blocked behind your corporate firewall, which it has a lot because I guess there's a lot of porn sites that are driven off Zacium, then you'll be able to have an alternative way of getting the video. So, or watch it streaming.
Nice.
So, we got tons of goodies for you. Make sure you check out the links underneath this month's show, so you can check out all the cool screens, all the, we'll have pictures of the comparison of the stylus, the screen pictures between the original and the new DS Lite in terms of brightness. All that stuff's going to be there, so you don't want to miss out.
Yeah, I've seen some of them already, and they're well worth checking out. You're really going to miss out if you're not checking the site. If you people are out there just sucking this thing down from iTunes and moving on, you're really missing out. And if you have any interest in the DS Lite, Shane's taking some really sweet pictures.
Yeah, I mean, I set the tripod up. I set the lighting. They look really, really good. Like I said, they look fake. That's how good they look.
Yeah,
and when your
really
pictures
good
look
stuff.
good enough to be fake, then
that's
you're
a
good to go.
compliment.
That's a compliment, yeah. So, anyway, again, if you have specific questions and you'd like to have them answered, please proceed to our forums and post your questions. We'll be happy to answer them. And next show, our episode 7, will resume our regular format, complete with some new reviews, more touch-and-go news, the whole bit. It's all going to come back on our next show. This is sort of a special edition. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants to know what the DS Lite is about, especially if you're a DS fan, and I think this was needed. I certainly learned a lot.
It's good stuff, and I can't wait for it to come out in the States when I can get my dark blue one now.
Great.
I'll probably have already gotten into this blue one by then.
So you'll probably end up giving the daughter the one you have now.
Yeah. I had to reaffirm my sexuality and buy myself a little red man clutch. These are cool. You can actually buy these things, and they're supposed to be for the original DS, but I was looking at it thinking, how do you put a DS in here? Let me see. I actually haven't tried that.
You got the Metroid run.
I got the Metroid. Dude, you can't put a real DS in here. They were selling it as a DS pouch, not a DS Lite pouch, but you can't get a DS in here.
They actually sell them at Best Buy as well, and they're packaged totally different.
Yeah, these are cool. This is like I said, this is my little man clutch, and this is cool because it's got one of those kind of utility bag clips on the side, so that it's easier to clip on and off like your belt loop or your backpack or whatever you normally clip things onto. So that's pretty cool. I like my little man bag.
Doesn't it come with a little screen wipe too?
Yeah,
like
it's cool.
Pouch?
Yeah, it has this is kind of cool too. I don't have it attached because I'm liable to snag it on something, but
sure.
It has a little pouch with the Metroid Prime logo on it, and it's got a screen wiper, but it's like attached inside the pouch. So when you're done with it, you just shove it in the pouch, and it stays in there. So it's not like a little zipper or anything, but you can just have that with you anytime to clean your screen.
Yeah, well, maybe we can we'll have to put a link up in the news or something to it.
Yeah, I'll make a little
It is
snapshot.
pretty cool. I've seen them. They actually, if any girls out there, want one, they actually have I saw the Princess Peach one. My wife actually liked that one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll actually put the DS. I'll tell you what. I'll take a picture while we're sitting here. Probably lost half the audience right now. They all thought we were done. I'm going to take my light and stick it halfway out of this with the little white thing, and then I'll take the little hook. I'll put my.
Do you actually have room in there for any cartridges, or is it just?
Yeah, there's room in there for stuff. I mean, I've got my stuff, my Super Card in there. I got my Rumble Pack stuff in there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not an official type thing. You wouldn't want to like officially stuff anything in there, but I'll take a picture of this with the little wipey thing. It's way cool, dude. I love the little wipey thing. It just stuffs back into the little bag. It's cool.
Yeah, normally with my I have a little GameStop case that zips right up and down, and I actually went and bought one of those little 3M microfiber cloths that you use for
those are
sunglasses
nice.
And all. I mean, it was like $2.50 at Walmart. So I shoved that right in the bag, and it's great. You clean the screen right off if you have any problems. Yeah, especially when you're using the microphone, you get some debris on it.
Yeah, some slobber.
Yeah.
My thing is my greasy fingerprints are all over the frickin' bottom screen. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but. Or if I'm pointing something out, I see I have a couple of fingerprint shots on the top screen, too.
Or something like Princess Peach, where you do kind of have to use your thumbs to select the power up, so you get some thumb grease on there.
Yeah, thumb grease. You're blowing on it, cleaning my DS like it's baby's butt. Yes, you like that, don't you? Yes, let me put some powder on you. That's funny, dude. All right, well, hope you enjoyed the DS Lite episode. Again, we'll be back with our regularly scheduled programming next episode. And hopefully we will not be down and out as long as we were this time. Hopefully real life will not continue to get in the way of us producing a fine DS show for you.
Yeah,
so.
Hopefully we'll get back onto a bi-weekly status.
Yeah, that is the goal. We will see how it works out.
We got so much stuff coming up, too. I mean, Brain Age is going to be coming out next week, so we're going to have plenty of time to get an idea of what we're going to talk about with that. Expect Brain Age to be coming up very soon, and Hopefully we'll get some Metroid Prime Hunters in there at some point. So we'll see what happens. And of course, New Super Mario Brothers coming out. A lot of games still coming out. You got E3 coming out. It's going to be a big next couple months.
Next couple of months, you're going to definitely want to be tuning into the show. We're going to we've got all the inside dope. We have a lot of people that are going to E3, have been to the Game Developer Conference. They give us all sorts of juicy little tidbits. And so we're going to hopefully be able to bring you a little exclusive here and there, and hopefully deliver it in an entertaining way where you don't fall asleep while listening to the show.
And one other thing real quick concerning the site, I want to stress that everybody check out the members area where you can create an account, log in, and you will be able to go through the database and actually create your own collection of what you want and what you have. And there's actually a Wi-Fi side structure there, so you can put in your Wi-Fi codes for your friends, and you can get a nice little list of everybody who's on the forum. Shane and I are on there. It's really great. You just put everybody's codes in that you want once you get access, and we can all sit online and play some Tetris together.
Yeah, and it's really cool because once you add all of your your friend codes, you can actually mass email them all to a friend or a couple of friends and family so that they can have, just your codes. And then once you go actually into one of the games, let's say you add your Tetris code, you can click the Find a Friend link. That will bring up a list of all the people in the database that have entered their Tetris code, and we actually spawn a chat applet that dives right into a channel dedicated for dual screen radio people playing Tetris DS. And if you go on late at night, you'll see a few people lurking around playing. That way you can kind of, since there's no chat room or lobby or whatever on most of the Wi-Fi stuff, this gives you a chance to kind of meet up, rub elbows, and be able to do something right through the web. You don't have to have an instant messenger program or an IRC program or anything.
It's all built in.
It's all built into the website. You have
Great
to have
stuff.
Java, but that's about it. So
Great stuff.
it's good stuff. So yeah, good point to help stress on the site. Appreciate that. It's good stuff. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed the review. This is Shane R. Monroe.
This is Chris Hentschel.
And listening is
good.
Yes, it's good.